one. So I thought, based on the morning, which was so wonderful, good download of all those planets, that we would, I want to make this personal, I want to make this helpful, so I thought we could look at each of these placements for as much time as we have in each of your charts. So, I mean, just really starting with Mercury, moving on to Venus, and let's just see what we have to say, and maybe if we let's see what pace we're moving at. But, so let's just launch in. Let's see what happens if we launch in. Sheldon here, you have Mercury in Pisces right at the ascendant. Okay, Mercury in Pisces right at the ascendant. And do you have any thoughts for yourself about the gift of that planet in terms of the higher mind and in terms of how it is most beneficial to you, to your instrument?
Yes. I'm wondering, it's hard to tell some of the shades of difference between these planets, but I have, since I've been quite a bit interested in the deep things. So if somebody says, what did you do as a child? I was always looking at mysteries. So that's been a lifelong interest since I was
Yeah.
my mom. Another thing about Mercury
Yeah.
To understand people, and so if something is not working well, my immediate thing is to try to explain what's going on with that person first. No, it's age old. So I was, as a kid, a kind of natural counselor. That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
The other part of Mercury, I guess, for me is it's always been clear that everything is related. So there's something I thought about Mercury more on the running around side, trying to relate everything. That may not be Pisces so much, but I mean, there's just fields of thoughts. There's no field of thought that doesn't interest me. So I mean, so it could be politics, spirituality, economics, and all these things are fascinating. Even astrology now. So I think those are some of the things that I can pick up. I guess the last thing I would say is, in recent years, this idea of, it may not be Mercury so much, but of identification has become not just an idea, but a major process, a major internal process. So that entering into what seems to be out there and getting a feel for what that is and seeing the connection back and forth, that's kind of what occurs to me.
Beautiful. I'm good. So I'm going to hold your chart. So not everybody's going to have to do that, but Sheldon, in terms of your placements, we'll work together. But it's interesting that we began with Mercury and Pisces at the ascendant, because we all know the ascendant, the potency of the ascendant. And so for Sheldon to have Mercury at the ascendant this is a planet that is deeply significant for him, right? And the fact that it's in Pisces, it was very interesting how he spoke about this, because running around connecting all these things, of course, Mercury in Pisces is an incredibly synthetic placement. And Neptune at the personality level rules Pisces. So this idea of identification, and remember how we were talking about how Neptune dissolves the boundaries? So one of Sheldon's great gifts is, in any situation, to stand in a group, to stand with another and dissolve the boundaries between us. And he stands for that. You know, whatever planet is at our ascendant, we stand for that. That is what we want to imbue. That is what we want to have pouring forth. Yes.
I have Scorpio, and in different ways that would occur.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's
So
what makes the difference between the planet itself and the energies that are coming on. But because it sounds very familiar.
well, I'm sure there could be various aspects of your chart that connect with that identification, that connect with that Piscean desire to merge. But Pisces rising, he's here to synthesize. He's here to merge. He's here to look at the universality of everything. And to save. I mean, Pisces is here to save and redeem, and Mercury is the vehicle for that. And oftentimes Mercury in Pisces is wordless, right? It's wordless because Mercury is so much about words and language and connecting, but Pisces is about the vast, quiet ocean, yeah? And embrace, that's beautiful. So to have that, here you are, the soul's calling, I'm holding her, soul's calling of Pisces rising, and then to have the vehicle be Mercury, which, as we have already said, is an incredibly intuitive placement where we can access the higher realms. But it's like accessing the wordless higher realms and then being able to share it just in presence. Yeah? So that's a very potent planet. And it's doubly potent for Sheldon because he's an Aries, and Mercury is the soul-centered ruler of Aries. So how is he going to assert? How is he going to initiate? How is he going to pioneer? He's going to do that through the great embrace, through the great synthesis, through the great wordlessness. Yeah? Do you get a feel for that? Yeah. Good. Does that resonate?
Yeah, what I would say is that I don't find myself at a loss of words.
No,
so
it's not a loss of words, though.
Yeah.
I would say it's not a loss of words, and I would say the very fact that he has Mercury at the ascendant, no matter what, there will be words. Yeah. But if I were to just stand with you, there is a depth of feeling and presence, right? That is wordless. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, but it's a good point though, because Mercury at the ascendant is going to give words no matter what.
I would say rays definitely have an effect.
Of course, yeah.
So, have you seen that? The rays have an effect coming in?
You know what, Irv? Let's stay with the purely planetary because we've got so much to cover. Yeah. But you're absolutely, the ray is going to affect the second ray. Yes.
I can see some of the words.
And you bring out. I will say that Mercury is a fourth ray planet, so it's interesting for him to have the fourth ray right at his ascendant, which is the ray of harmony through conflict. So what is he? That there is going to be an infusion of that and an interest in that. And what has Sheldon devoted his life to is, creating peace and bridges within organizations, and much more than that, but that's a simple way of saying it. Good. Yeah, good. Let's look at another placement. Maybe we'll just look at a few placements in each. I'm realizing how the time will go. So let's look at another Mercury placement, and then maybe we'll move on to Venus, and we'll just dance around. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at Claire. I just opened up Claire. Claire has Mercury in Leo in the 6th house. All right? Mercury in Leo. This is very different, right? That's correct as far as you, right, okay. Mercury in Leo in the 6th house. So what can we say about the highest, do you know astrology well, Claire? Or, okay.
I'm not very,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about your Mercury in Leo at its best, at its most thriving, at its highest? and it's all right if you don't.
Well, it's interesting. I relate so strongly to what Sheldon is actually saying, even though the placement is very different. The whole idea of harmony through conflict. That's been one of the themes of my life, I imagine, is growing up in Africa, and that the conversation between apparent opposites has always been a very strong one for me, and reconciling, the reconciliation process, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's relevant to your question or not, but that's what came first to mind.
Yeah, good. Well, it's interesting. Let's look at Mercury in Leo at its best, and I think it will absolutely fuse in with that. Mercury in Leo at its best, remember, Leo is I am that, and that am I, right? So first Leo is the self, and then it grows, and it is a larger self. It is the self that identifies with everything and then sees it reflected back in the self, right? I am that, and that am I. So Mercury in Leo is like having Mercury next to the sun, right? So there's an incredible solar force that comes through Mercury in Leo, and a radiance and a reflection of the one. And it's an incredibly courageous placement. It's a courageous offering of the soul self as a reflection of the great self. Okay?
It's so interesting because one of the big themes in my work, which is visual writing, has always been to find the universal through the personal. To always go through, to access the universal, but through the personal. So to tell my own story, or the truth of that, in order to access the bigger whole.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
and Leo absolutely, it must acknowledge the personal as the vehicle, as you said. And it's so interesting for Claire. I'm looking at him like, oh, okay. Well, she has Uranus conjunct Mercury exactly. All right, so remember what we said earlier, that Mercury dissolves into Uranus, or that Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So this brilliance and electricity of mind, and the new and the sudden and the download through the self, through Leo, through the heart. That's another thing, right? Leo is the heart. So it's this immediacy and dynamism and vitality that is like downloaded and put forth. However, remember for Claire, it is in the 6th house, okay? And the 6th house is a house of devotion and service and refinement. So it's not going to be a sloppy kind of like, it's going to be, there's going to be a refinement to the energy of the courageous self, okay? And it's also going to be, to what end am I embodying this energy? To what end? There has to be, there is a devotion, there is a sensitivity, there is a compassion, right? Does that resonate for you?
Yeah, so this part of it's very important. Lawson has been talking about inspiration as part of service.
Yes.
And that's a way of catalyzing and synthesizing as well.
Beautiful.
So it does fit.
Yeah, inspiration is a part of service, and that's a beautiful way of looking at Leo in the Virgo house. And Claire is also a Leo at the 29th degree, right? So there's something for you about, as we're talking about intuition, about that electric archetypal knowing that comes in, demands expression for the good of the whole, or for the good of that which you are devoted to, Yeah, can you feel, does that resonate? Are there questions from that? Does that make sense? So there's something for you about the spark of the mind. Yeah, good. Yeah, beautiful. Let's look at another Mercury placement in terms of, anybody? Stacia? Okay. Let's look at another one, see if there's okay, this is interesting. So Stacia's got Mercury in Sagittarius, okay? Mercury in Sagittarius in the 4th house. Okay, so again, we're looking at the highest aspects of the Sagittarian energy as experienced through Mercury. Okay? So does anybody know anything about the highest aspects of Sagittarius?
Teacher?
Teacher, absolutely. Philosopher. Teacher, philosopher, traveler. Yeah. Yeah. One-pointed disciple. Yeah. And in terms of it is the big mind, right? It is the big picture mind. Sagittarius, of course, is ruled by Jupiter. So this placement, like, busts open and expands the horizon of the mind, right? Because it's like having Mercury sitting next to Jupiter. So it's really like, whoa, it's the vastness. It's not at all interested in the particular details of things, right? It's, again, a kind of inspirational position. What can I teach in the biggest way, you know? And of course, when you have Mercury next to Jupiter, there is a lot to say, and there is, sometimes you say it too much or too quickly or too impulsively in the sign of Sagittarius. But there's something here about that Seisha can access that is about the vastness of the largest mind we know. Yeah? But it's interesting because for her it is in the 4th house. And what is the 4th house? Anyone? Yeah.
Home,
Yeah, the home.
Yep,
and
home.
the home, the 4th house is the home. It's our spiritual foundation. It's our spiritual home. It's the ashram. It's the foundation. It's like the roots of the tree. It's from whence we spring. So there's something, like, I always like to think about the base of our chart. I'm holding that. I always like to think about the base of our chart as our nourishment, as what comes up through our feet, seeps up, and then, right, then extends. So there's something for you, Stacia, about this goal, this, the Sagittarian one-pointed goal as coming up through and out as like being a part of the very fabric of your foundation. And as inspiration being a part of the fabric of your foundation. Does that make sense to you, or does it bring up anything for you?
Well, quite a few things, but you're right on.
Okay. Yeah.
And I am a teacher. I am a nurse. I'm very much involved in philosophical studies, and love to learn, love to teach, and bringing up, when you're saying from the root and expanding it forth.
Yeah.
In a global way.
Yeah. I like this, the idea of, here's Stacia as a nurse, right? So in the 4th house, we find this area to be one of great care and nourishment. So how does she offer care and nourishment? She offers it through, in one way, through the inspiration and biggest vision that a teacher can offer, Mercury in Sag. Yeah? She's also, of course, got the moon in Sag. So, yeah, so it's doubly so. She sort of comes in with that. And also, it's strong 4th ray, and we bring in the 4th ray because Sagittarius has ray 4, 5, and 6 pouring through. So you have strong 4th ray coming not only through the Mercury, but through the Sagittarius. So the desire to build the bridges, the desire to harmonize. Yeah. Peacemaker. Yeah, very good. Good. Let's get a taste of a Venus position. How about that? So Gloria, why don't we take a look at your Venus position? So remember Venus as, this is kind of lovely because Gloria also has Venus in Sagittarius. And it's at the this is lovely because this is, so just as Claire had Mercury conjunct Uranus, right? Remember Mercury dissolving into Uranus. Gloria has Venus conjunct Neptune, okay? Venus dissolving into Neptune. So these are incredible opportunities to operate at higher and higher turns of the spiral, right? So let's remind ourselves about Venus a bit, that Sagittarius, Venus in Sagittarius, at the top of the chart in the 10th house, yeah. So, for Venus, in terms of the intuition, right? It is the blend of the head and the heart. It has an incredible magnetism to it. And I often say of Venus, it's where we have our soul-satisfying experiences. And I think when we are in our soul-satisfying experiences, when we're available, when we're present, then too, it seems like the intuition has a greater capacity to arrive. And I liked that it was, when we talked about intuition, as instantaneous, right? That it's not reasoned, it's boom, because you're in a field of soul and self-expression. So look, Venus in Sagittarius is the love of the expanse, the love of the broadest picture, the love of growth, the love of knowledge, the love of wisdom, the love, all of that, right? And for you, you're very serious about it because it's in the 10th house. So your mountaintop you climb your mountain, and I'm saying mountain because of the 10th house, you climb your mountain with a great deal of enthusiasm and sensitivity and inspiration, almost through a kind of artistry, You don't climb your mountain like, You climb your mountain through each new layer of beauty and refinement and sensitivity. Can you feel that? That's Venus next to Neptune, which makes an incredibly refined and artistic and sensitive being. But it's also in the sign of, right? The journey is one of profound sensitivity and profound artistry. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So, in terms of the intuition, much will be dissolved through joy. The dissolution of boundaries, the dissolution of separation through joy and art and beauty.
You say that's Venus, so not so much Jupiter.
Venus and Neptune together. Yeah, I'm looking at Venus and Neptune together, and it's kind of nice because we were able to touch in on Uranus and able to touch in on Neptune, but Venus and Neptune together, that Neptune, well, I'm saying joy, actually. Joy because of Sagittarius. Because it's so enthusiastic, and it's so exuberant, and it has a Jupiterian feel, right? And it's so boundless, and it's so yes, right? It's yes, but these two planets, Venus and Neptune, next to one another, bring in the soul field so strongly. So the joy is so important. But you're very serious about joy, right? because of the 10th house. It's always fun when we start to combine these things, just as you have a refinement and a precision about self-expression because of the Virgo of the 6th house with Leo in it. Yeah? Okay. Responsibility. Yeah, exactly. Another great 10th house word. The responsibility to be joyous. Exactly. The precise systematic approach to be spontaneous. That's Virgo and Leo combined. Duty. Yeah, duty. Yeah, these are great words. Duty, responsibility, the hard work of climbing. But with these beautiful, luscious, refined, sensitive planets that receive. Neptune is impressed. Neptune impresses. Neptune merges. So it's not this. It's sort of like this. It's sort of like you're doing the hard work, but you're permeable and you're yeah. See, that's beautiful. Yeah. It's sometimes wordless. Again, we have yeah. Tenacity and availability together. That's nice. The commitment of Saturn, which rules the 10th house, married to the availability or impressionability or sensitivity of Venus next to Neptune. Yeah. So, yeah, okay. That's a very lovely example of that. Good. Now let's take a look at Irv in terms of Venus. Where's your Venus, Irv? Oh, you got a chart. Oh, cool. Okay, there it goes. Oh, okay. Oh, this is good. Okay. Venus in Capricorn in the 3rd house. Now, what do we know about Venus and Capricorn? This is a hard question, but I'll just ask it anyway. Yeah, it's a great placement, Venus and Capricorn. They are different. They are different from one another. And yes.
Well, from what little I know, this is the highest ruler of Capricorn.
Exactly.
So when I think of Venus and Capricorn, that this sheds the whole transfiguring light on everything that's present.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is an exquisite placement, and it is a placement where you have to go Venus and Capricorn, right? How does that come together? But it is the transfiguration. It is at the top of the mountain, Capricorn. Lost am I in light supernal, yet on that light I turn my back. Imagine the image. You're at the top of the mountain. You've seen maybe some of the pictures. I can't remember who it is, but there's this gorgeous picture of all the lines of light, and suddenly there's revelation, and suddenly there is transfiguration because you've climbed the mountain, you've gone through the initiations of consciousness, and then Venus, the beauty of that revelation is Venus, you know? So on one hand, Venus in Capricorn, what would be soul satisfying to you would be the hard, committed work, and it's in your 3rd house of knowing everything. Venus in Capricorn can be very cautious and careful about its experience of beauty, but as it grows and as it trusts more and more, and as it enters more and more the soul field, it's in the 3rd house. So the love of how everything is connected and the commitment to understanding how everything is connected. Yeah? Sounds familiar? Grab that.
Thinking, taking advantage of this situation, I guess it would run into another life, and how it would be lifted even further.
Yeah.
How would it go on through some kind of fusion?
Yeah, well, you know, this is the beauty of reincarnation, right? Is what we build in this lifetime, the light that we have built into our vehicles gets to stay, and the work that you've done on Venus and Capricorn to date will be present, and then whether or not in another next lifetime you have Venus and Capricorn again, we don't know, but the work that you've done is lending itself to the next step, absolutely.
It sounds right.
Sounds good.
Sounds right, good.
But,
needs to be done.
yeah, but I would just say, like, again, of intuition, you know, Venus, we say Venus is to the earth as the soul is to the personality, right? Venus is the soul sister to the earth. So this soul field for you, you can access that soul field increasingly as you assume responsibility, as you stand up straight, as it were, as you recognize the authority of the soul. Yeah? Okay? And for you in the 3rd house, so it has so much to do with how when we connect everything, we reveal the love that underlies everything. Yeah? So your intuitional access comes through responsibility. And yeah. The connecting of head and heart, the connecting of, yeah. And I would also say Gemini, of course, turns facts into wisdom, right? It it turns all the myriad of factual details that you can collect and reel off, it eventually turns that to wisdom. It says, how can we marry the facts to the heart? What happens when the heart meets facts? Something changes, right? Perhaps we could say reason turns to knowing, right? Yep, and vice versa. When the heart opens up, you know, then you can actually start to connect, right? Good, 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 good. Yeah, we're losing you. Where would the intuition come in? Well, this is the big question, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
The question for you will be like, what planet will, you know, for all of us, perhaps as, this is an interesting question, and maybe we can go from here, is as we were speaking of each of these planets, was there one that you were like, aha, this is my way in, do you know, where it actually felt like there was a truth-telling that was going on in terms of your access to this field of intuition? Was there, you know, was there a planet that stood out for you?
Well, again, I think in teaching, learning something really well, I think there's an opening up of coming through, like spirit coming through, and that intuitiveness would come through more. That's the way my life seems like it's happening.
Well, you said it beautifully then. For Venus and Capricorn, in teaching something and knowing something well, that's the third. Teaching and what, to whom, from whom can I teach, to whom can I give? Yes. Or from whom can I take, to whom can I give? Right? So that's the brother, the offering to the brother, and then to do it well is in Capricorn. Right? I mean, to do it, yeah. Yeah, with any of the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, the methodical, the practical, the rhythmic, yeah. Anybody have a planet that they would said, yes, this is a planet that I can feel? Yes, what for you?
Uranus.
Uranus, yeah, absolutely. So go say more about it for you, or if you wish.
Well, just that my life's been characterized by sudden sharp shocks and lightning flashes, and just the challenge has always been to stand in the present and respond to whatever comes in the moment. Which brings with it significant challenges, but also extraordinary gifts. So, you know, there's a degree of risk-taking, I suppose, that that comes with that.
Yeah.
And saying yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love, you know, extraordinary is definitely a Uranian word, right? Out of the ordinary. And it is interesting for Claire, I mean, perhaps those, at least you can see it here, Mercury, Uranus, Sun, Moon, Pluto, all in a stellium, right? So, and there's an incredible potency there in terms of you know, so it's loaded there in the 6th house. And then I would just say to you that we know that Leo is ruled at all levels by the sun, but at the esoteric level, it's veiling Neptune, and at the hierarchical level, it's veiling Uranus. So Uranus is, let's just put it in simple terms, Uranus is going to be incredibly important for a Leo already. So remember, this is I return to this basic point again and again. Your sun sign must be in service to your rising sign. It must be in service. So for Claire, the sun Leo, with that Uranian flavor of authenticity and archetypal uniqueness, and at the same time the uniqueness that holds the whole group, must be in service to her Pisces rising, which is all about truly the upliftment of everyone, upliftment of all. So like standing, it's like being electrified so that you can merge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for you, the intuition as the flash. For you, the intuition as I like that image of the lightning lighting up the dark sky. Yeah. 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 And let's just say, when you said saying yes and risk-taking, and what does that sound like to you when you hear yes and risk-taking? What planets or signs does that sound like? It's got some fire to it. It's got some fire. But yes is Jupiter. Risk-taking, what sign is risk-taking? It could be, but like the kind of I'm yeah, and I mean risk Leo a bit, another fire. Sagittarius is the risk taker. Sagittarius is the gambler. Sagittarius is the one that like drives fast, right? So guess where Claire has Jupiter in Sagittarius, at the top of the chart, the most elevated planet. So yes, the electric Uranian quality of the intuition, but also this vast expanse of the field of yes, the field of growth, the field of all things are possible, is the most elevated energy for you, So, yeah, let's just say, like, if I said to you that the foundation or the roots of the tree, at the blossoms, whatever you have at the top of your chart, you give out like the blossoms. So the spirit of expansiveness and vastness and daring is the blossom that occurs as a result of the, yeah. You're asking all the big questions. Or what seed group? So what do you feel most?
Well, yes, more social.
Everything really, Jupiter and Sagittarius. Yeah, it is the big picture. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful, very interesting. Is there another planet for someone that you would like to grow in its use? I loved what my father was saying about like how can we ask the questions that allow us to use these energies, that we can give our gifts for the good of the whole. So is there a planet that Jupiter. Let me look at your chart again. Oh, I'm sorry, I stole it from you. No fair. Okay, yeah. Again, Jupiter. So for Stacia, Jupiter, this planet of expansion of consciousness, is in Gemini, in the Aquarian house, in the 11th house. Okay? So Jupiter in Gemini, what's the danger of Jupiter in Gemini? Does anybody, how can you articulate Jupiter in Gemini? It's like, yeah. Well, or the amplification of that, where it's like, everything, right? Everything. And I want to share, because it's Aquarius, everything, right? But the beauty of that, I mean, when you chose Jupiter in terms of a planet that you want to grow more so that you can access this field of intuition, what were your thoughts behind that?
The whole quality of expansion of consciousness.
Yeah. Just for the good of the whole.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, the beauty of Jupiter in Gemini is actually the ability to begin to fuse these myriad of ideas, and the ability to synthesize and begin to weave a tapestry that, once again, that reveals light, love, power, right? Jupiter in Gemini. But then to distribute it in the house of Aquarius, right? Jupiter is already the esoteric ruler of Aquarius, right? We are more together. So we are more together as we synthesize all these pieces of knowledge that could remain just interesting, but in fact want to, yeah. Did you have a thought about that, Sheldon, or were you?
I'm just feeling into it.
Yeah. Feeling wordlessly into it.
No, I'm just thinking about what you were saying in terms of these facts as they come together. You know, kind of what happens to them in terms of generating a big picture into which all of us can play at our best.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking of. So.
And I had also would just say it's fascinating when we start to say, oh, this planet is. I resonate with this because so far we've actually had two examples where, for Stacia, of course, Jupiter is she's a Sagittarius, so it is the personality ruler, and for Claire, it had the resonance of the hierarchical ruler in Leo, the Uranus. So I would bet that the planets that you're going to feel the most identified with are going to be ruling planets in your chart, and there's a greater line of access to them. The energy is more available. Yeah. So and so that is going to be of incredible service. Remember again, like this Sagittarian energy, this Jupiterian energy, this teaching, this expansion is going to be incredible service to her. She has Leo rising, right? So, so the Leo rising of the expression of the self with a capital S. To express, to radiate, to courageously offer the radiant self. Yeah. To offer the self that is all of us. to be a vehicle for an expression of the one self through a particular quality. 2 minutes. Jupiter Jupiter's incredibly inclusive. Yes, it says we can all join in. Yeah. It can hold evermore. Yeah. Remember Jupiter, it's so fun to, of course, look at the planets themselves and say, what does this look like? And, of course, if you've seen the pictures, Jupiter is gigantic, right? So it's forever teaching us that that which we say we are is a certain ring pass knot, and Jupiter always insists on breaking through that ring pass knot so that we are more, right? No, it's all right. It's like,
Exciting
Uranus
thoughts.
was very present. Yeah. Good. So I think we touched on all the planets connected to the intuition, and it's true. Like it's worthy of great meditation how each of these planets are offering their gifts, and how we can stay in that field of receiving that energy. Receiving and offering, receiving and offering. Yeah, a different way of yeah. Yes, and accessing the intuition not for how connected we are, but for for service. Thank you all. Oh, do you want to say something else? Are you sure? You're going to be wordless again? No. I think we will. I think we'll bring this to a close. And thank you so much. Thanks for being present, and let's keep the dialogue going.